Yep, that's right. We're going to talk about the DCC Open Series. So, as many of you may know, this Saturday past, Saturday the 12th of August and the 13th, the Sunday, DCC held their Open Series for 3 titles, 3 esports: League of Legends, Valorant, and Rocket League. Now, this was almost entirely put together, run, and produced, one man running the show really, by Sator, or Ian, as I will refer to him as through this, for the sake of brevity. The event overall, if you've seen anything on social media, Discord, it was a swing and a miss. Let's be real. It was a bit of a dumpster fire at times, and I'm making this video not out of the spirit of sending hate towards anyone, not in the spirit of doing a witch hunt or calling to arms, purely as a means of feedback, open, communicative way that can hopefully be understood and seen by people to know that the resources are there to do much better than this. Ireland has so much more to offer as a gaming community and an esports community than what happened here. So, less of the dregs and drags, let's go over the pros of this event. It shows that there is a big name such as Dublin Comic Con interested in something like Irish esports, which is really, really good. That's great news. It demonstrated that there is the possibility to use great locations like the convention centre for esports events. Like, this was on the main stage. There was potentially up to 2,000 people could have gone, but I think at most there was maybe 30 people in the crowd. And if you've seen the clips on Twitter, a handful of people for most of it. And before the final map of the League of Legends on the Saturday, supposed to be the peak of the esports, I think there was 2 people in the crowd, and they might have been staff. That being said, back to the pros. It's demonstrated that there can be big budgets in Irish esports, which is really, really great. Money is there. It's just waiting for the right people to spend it. It was League of Legends' first live show in 6 years, their first LAN event, which is great news for them. Cons. Let's go to the cons. Well, yeah, literally everything else. The event overall had thousands of people in attendance. They could have filled out that main stage, but it never happened. So few people showed up for esports. It wasn't pushed on social media, and it just overall felt like a huge contradiction to other events like Gamerfest or Natives Collegiate, the Red Bull event, which had great turnout. Perfect examples of it just playing out differently. I mean, I was on the stage for Gamerfest. I saw how full the crowd was. There wasn't an empty seat for pretty much all 3 maps. It was crazy. Organizational issues are kind of what it boils down to. The original organizers, which among them were myself, Jack Igo, Adam Incipiens, and God of Pog, I would say some of the most experienced in a wide range of esports, particularly in Ireland, out of maybe most people in the country under 30. We have that insider knowledge. We have that knowledge of and experience of running these events on smaller scales, on similar scales. And in the case of Gamerfest, with Incipiens and God of Pog working with the Gamerfest staff to make that one happen. But we were simply just cut out of the meetings at a certain point, maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little bit later, probably in April or May, I would say. And bear in mind, these talks had been going on since late November, early December of 2022. This was over 9 months in the making. Yeah, over 9 months in the making. Initially, it was going to be for an event in March, the original Dublin Comic Con, or maybe it was April, I don't remember. We were pushing for social media releases. That never happened. It got to the stage where it was almost a month before the event and nothing had been said about it. There was no releases. Nobody knew it was happening. Tickets hadn't been put on sale or anything. And eventually Sator made the call to postpone it and put it out till August of next year, or of later in the year, which was the one just come past. Again, as I said, somewhere in the process, we just stopped being included in these discussions. And I've seen it be claimed that it was because we stopped responding or we were treating people unfairly, but genuinely, and I think Sator will attest to this, in my case in particular, I was very much adamant about being involved, and my involvement was welcomed up until a certain point where everybody else was cut off, and for some reason I was also cut off. And this is not out of like spite or saltiness in relation to this. Not that at all. It's purely based off of experience and, well, the evidence before our eyes of it not going well. There were a few organizational issues after we had left. That was stuff we had highlighted distinctly, such as the format, production, even licensing. There was all stuff that we had highlighted that was disregarded when it came to the actual event. For example, they had the Valorant stage, and I'll be talking about Valorant a lot in particular. I know there was League and Rocket League, but Valorant is where my experience mostly lies in this. They had the stage from 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. on the Sunday. They hope to fit a best of 5 in that time. Now, if you've never played Valorant, the average map takes 40 minutes. You can't fit a best of 5 in a 2-hour slot. It's mathematically not possible. Stuff like that was changed last minute by the suggestion of a player, by the way, to change it to a best of 3, in which obviously they didn't fit it into the 2 hours either. It went over time. It was delayed. There was, I believe, a tweet where a Discord moderator said we had all left the Discord and we'd unincluded ourselves from the conversations and the meetings. And I mean, I can simply prove that wasn't true. Sator himself showed us the Discord logs where this moderator in particular was the one to remove us all from the server where it was being planned, all on the same date. It's just, yeah, it's inexcusable, really. But on to the production issues. So League of Legends started 90 minutes late, and Valorant started 45 minutes late. A 50% decrease the next day, but sure, look. The audio on the League stream, I believe, was fine, but for Valorant, for all of map 1, you didn't hear gunshots, agent voice lines, explosions, abilities, yada, yada, yada. It was audioless, which was really, really something. You could just hear the casters. The observing, I don't know what was going on there, but I mean, some of the stuff that like I wanted to get up and scream watching, I just didn't get shown. I could see in the kill feed and it wasn't happening. It was a bit unfortunate. The players could hear the casters, I have heard some people claim. One of the players didn't have audio, and we'll come to that in a minute. There was no delay on the stream. This is the big one. You have to have delay on a live stream. It's just, you have to do it if it's a live performance, because as Jack rightfully pointed out, anyone in the Twitch chat can message live locations to any of the players through the Valorant Whisper client. And there weren't admins on the stage behind the players. That wasn't the thing. When Jack pointed this out, the admins instantly saw blood, I suppose, and went on to players' backs and started telling them to like show their DMs with Jack. And one of the organizers, might have even been Sator himself, was telling people to like unadd him and block him to avoid this kind of thing, which is just unacceptable. I mean, the fix for this problem isn't blocking someone. It's putting a delay on the stream. Call a tech timeout, restart the stream with a 2-minute delay. Simple as. You just got to take the L on that. I mean, it had been delayed for 45 minutes already. 2 minutes is not going to make much of a difference. Don't get me started on the free cam observing. I will simply not say any words other than use a controller, please, I beg. I've never done it. I know you need to use a controller. Tech issues. There were some tech issues that are unavoidable, which is, it happens. You've had over 9 months to plan this, and somehow there's still stuff like issues like stuff arriving late, like the PCs arriving the day before, the monitors not arriving on time and having to be purchased by Sator and ended up being 165 hertz instead of 240, which for League and Rocket League is maybe not a big issue. For Valorant, it's night and day. Like, actually, it's a huge difference. There was a Discord issue at one stage, I believe, with one of the players, and a moderator suggested to use in-game voice comms, which is, again, just don't get me started. The network in the event, 30% packet loss for a huge chunk of the game, and didn't stop throughout the whole series. The packet loss kept coming and going, allegedly due to someone in another room watching a football stream off of the same switch, which is, okay, whatever. A bit weird, but sure, look. Which, I guess that'll take me to the biggest issue in my books is the budgeting. The budgeting for this just seemed really bizarre. I've seen a lot of budgets for these events, and this was by far the largest I have seen in Irish esports history. Now, I know venues are expensive, and I won't be counting the cost of like renting out a venue in this discussion. Even still, there was more money available for the prize pool and the talent than I've ever seen in an Irish event before, and yet the day rate for the casters was the lowest I've ever seen. And albeit the prize pool was on par with the biggest, it leaves me wondering how a lot of the money was spent. And I had a call with Sator yesterday where we actually discussed this, and I have some answers, but those answers leave me with some questions. Way too much budget had to go towards stage, lights, projector, general objects in the room. It felt like the chairs had a price tag. Even still, to clarify, discounting all of that, the remaining budget that was allocated towards the prize pool and the talent was still bigger than anything I've ever seen. The issue it boils down to was there being too many mouths to feed. For a 2-day event, there was nearly 8 admins and moderators on hand, not counting the production and the casters that had to help out in some way, I suppose, but I'm not too sure what exactly they did, except for something I'll come to later, which involves questionable legal behavior. But we'll come to that, as I said. Speaking of talent, there's a tweet going around where there is a reported day rate for Jack, which the reported rate was €450. I will say this with full confidence and experience, that is pretty much below the industry standard for someone of his caliber, without a doubt. I mean, if you're to hire like Mitchman or Dagda, any of those big names, who I would say Jack's brand is pretty much on par with at this stage, they're invoicing more than that, shall we say. And I've seen the numbers. Having been at most of the live events in Irish Valorant, this was pretty much a day rate that was on par with the others, this being what Jack was requesting, not what was actually offered. And to be clear, Jack's pay rate initially was accepted, as was mine, which was lower than Jack's. And not to report the numbers, but it wasn't exactly what was quoted on Twitter as well. It was the principle of it being chopped up after it was agreed to that just kind of sucks. But again, in my case, that was not the reason I dropped out. I had another, a family event on that day, and I told this to Sator. We discussed it, and he said, if you've got something else on, like, go for it. He's got other options. So I presume there's no bad blood there. That being said, if you are to take into consideration that this is Jack's full-time job, combine both his day rate and my day rate, and it's still less than what some of the other staff in production were being paid, which is crazy, absolutely bonkers statistic. And yes, that is combined. So as I said, it's not about the budget for me. It was that it was cut last minute, and I had the other thing going on. I do really believe that sets an awful precedent, and I really don't hope that's something we see again, because I imagine I was strapped for that kind of money and this was my career. I would not have been happy. And it was more than chopped in half, my day rate, by the way. It was more than chopped in half within 2 weeks before the event, pretty much. Close enough. And a week and a half before the event was when I said I couldn't. So again, not really last minute. There was space to find replacements, and replacements were found. One of the casters was a League of Legends caster who was going to be doing it on the day, but he ended up dropping out and took up some sort of observing instead. Huge credit to Annihilation, who stepped up to assist Kurt on the commentating in the end. I think the boys did an absolute phenomenal job, especially given the hand that they were dealt. I suppose that'll take me to what is the most baffling part to me is the moderator issues. So there was a moderator, I believe the name was Livid Thor, who ordered the players to show their DMs. The players refused and ordered them to unadd and block Jack and everything. I think I'm not. It's unclear whether that was Livid Thor or if that was Sator himself. I know that one of these is also the same mod that once I looked at their Twitter likes, I wanted to commit Sudoku. This same mod instigated a search of players' DMs, as I said, without their consent, while they were away from their PCs, under the guise of logging them out of their Discord. Which, if you're snooping through someone's DMs on a computer that you're telling them you're going to log them out of, there's got to be something about that that's at least morally questionable, if not somewhat illegal, under like some data privacy thing, especially when you're paid to be there at the event. You're on a contract. There was also a bit of a homophobic incident, which, again, I wasn't there to witness this. This is just third party, what I heard. There were caster notes on the table in the green room, and one player saw the caster notes and started reading them, and another player asked player one, what do the notes say? And this moderator said, it says you're gay, which, like, it's just disappointing to hear. You know what I mean? It's not something you say in 2023. It's not funny. It's not edgy humor. It's just so needless. Yeah. I know there's definitely work to be done, and questionable choice of admins and moderators in the event that were too many in numbers and too inexperienced in doing things like this. I suppose that about sums it up. Like, in conclusion, I'm doing this in the spirit of improvement. I saw what was available, as did Jack and Adam and God of Pog, and it broke our hearts to see such experienced opinions get discarded for something with just too much money and ego and not enough being open to feedback. That was the main thing, because so much of this was avoidable in what we'd said. We were promised that the PCs would not be an issue. They were an issue eventually after we were gone. There's months of time in between there for stuff to have gone wrong, as it did, clearly. Yeah, I mean, that just kind of sums it up. On to happier tidings. I'm going to be doing a 24-hour stream this coming Friday, the 18th of August, starting at 2 p.m. all the way through to Saturday at 2 p.m. It's going to be non-stop gaming action, featuring a little something I've been cooking up called Twitchmaster. Totally not ripped off of Taskmaster, and subsequently stands as Twitchmaster. But yeah, that's going to sum it up for me. Ladies, genties, and NBs, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you stop by on Friday. Just one little tiny thing before I finish up. I just want to set the record straight on this one important detail. I am not blacklisted by Riot Games, despite what you may have heard. And I want to make that very clear.